Carl Jung often noted that relationships are shaped not only by what we consciously give and receive, but also by the hidden psychological forces underneath. One of these forces is the sense of obligation that arises when someone receives generosity. While your kindness and giving may be sincere and unconditional, the person on the receiving end may unconsciously feel burdened. This unspoken obligation can cause discomfort, guilt, or even resentment, eventually leading them to dislike you, despite your good intentions. When you are generous, whether through time, support, or material help, you may feel joy in giving. But many people struggle with receiving because it makes them feel indebted. Human psychology tends to balance relationships on an invisible scale. When someone feels they cannot repay you in equal measure, the balance tips, and instead of gratitude, they may feel pressure. Jung would explain this as the psyche's resistance to feeling powerless or worn down in a relationship dynamic. For older people, this situation arises often. You may offer guidance to younger family members, financial help to children, or emotional support to friends. While you intend this as love and care, they may interpret it as creating a debt they cannot repay. For example, an adult child who receives financial assistance from an elderly parent might feel ashamed or inadequate, even if the parent never asks for repayment. That shame can slowly morph into resentment directed toward the giver. Similarly, a friend who always leans on your emotional strength may feel dependent and begin to distance themselves because your generosity makes them uncomfortable with their own weakness. Another layer of this dynamic is pride. Many people find it hard to accept help because it threatens their sense of independence. Your generosity, though kind, can feel like a reminder that they are not fully sufficient. Instead of seeing it as love, they may interpret it as a subtle judgment of their inability to cope on their own. This is especially true in cultures or families where independence is highly valued. The very act of giving something you view as compassion may be perceived as undermining their pride. Jung's insight reveals that this resentment is rarely about the giver. It stems from the receiver's internal conflict between gratitude and discomfort. On the surface, they may thank you, but underneath, they may feel uneasy, exposed, or dependent. Over time, these unresolved emotions can transform into hostility, creating confusion for the giver who only acted out of kindness. The practical lesson for older adults is to be mindful of the balance in giving. Generosity is a beautiful trait, but offering it in a way that empowers rather than burdens others can reduce the likelihood of resentment. Instead of giving in ways that make others feel indebted, focus on acts that encourage their growth and dignity. For example, rather than offering solutions, guide them toward finding their own answers. Rather than material help, sometimes emotional encouragement is enough. Ultimately, Jung's teaching reminds us that generosity, though noble, carries psychological weight. The hidden obligation it creates can trigger discomfort in others. The key is to give without expectation, with sensitivity to how the gift might be received. By doing so, you remain authentically kind, while allowing others to keep their dignity intact. Carl Jung often explained that people project onto others the qualities they struggle to recognize within themselves. Patience is one such quality. When you, especially as an older person, embody patience, whether in conversations, relationships, or life's daily struggles, it can serve as a quiet mirror for others. While some may admire this calmness, others may feel irritated or even hostile because your patience silently reminds them of their own restlessness, impulsivity, or lack of control. In today's world, where speed and instant gratification dominate, patience is rare. When you show steady composure, others may unconsciously interpret it as a judgment of their own haste. For example, if you calmly wait during a stressful situation while someone else grows frustrated, your behavior highlights the contrast. Instead of learning from your patience, they may feel exposed, as if your calmness proves their weakness. Jung would describe this as the psyche resisting self-awareness, rather than facing their impatience. People deflect by disliking the person who reflects it. For older adults, this dynamic is even stronger. Age often brings the wisdom of slowing down, appreciating the moment, and not rushing through life. You may take your time in decisions, listen deeply, or calmly endure difficulties. Younger people or even peers may misinterpret this patience as passivity, stubbornness, or superiority. For instance, if you wait before reacting in a family argument, others might grow irritated, seeing your silence as a reminder of their own lack of self-control. Or, if you remain calm in the face of hardship, someone struggling with anxiety might resent your ability to stay grounded. Another reason patience triggers others is that it interrupts the emotional intensity they expect. Impatient people often seek validation for their urgency. If they are angry, they want others to join their anger. If they are rushing, they expect others to match their pace. When you remain patient instead of mirroring their agitation, it frustrates them. They may label you as too calm, uncaring, or difficult, when in truth your patience simply refuses to feed their chaos. Jung's insight here is that reactions to patience reveal more about the other person's inner conflicts than about you. Your calmness does not cause their discomfort, it only exposes it. Their irritation stems from the gap between how they want to handle life and how they actually do. Instead of acknowledging this gap, they externalize the discomfort by disliking you. The lesson for older adults is to understand that patience is both a gift and a challenge. Not everyone will welcome it, because it forces them to confront parts of themselves they may not be ready to face. That does not mean you should abandon patience. It simply means you should not expect universal appreciation for it. By remaining patient without expecting validation, you maintain inner peace while allowing others the space to wrestle with their own impatience. Over time, some may grow to admire your calmness, while others may continue to resist it. Either way, Jung reminds us that true patience is rooted in self-awareness, not in the reactions of others. Your role is to embody it authentically, regardless of how it is received. Carl Jung believed that aging is not just a physical process but a profound psychological journey. With age often comes wisdom and ability to see life's patterns, to value what truly matters, and to accept what cannot be changed. While this wisdom is a gift, it can also provoke discomfort in others, particularly because it confronts their hidden fears about aging, mortality, and the passage of time. When you, as an older person, display calm acceptance, gratitude, or perspective born from years of experience, others may not always admire it. Instead, it may unsettle them. Younger people, for example, often avoid thinking about aging. Your wisdom and presence can serve as a reminder of life's impermanence and of their own future. Instead of welcoming your guidance, they may pull away, criticize, or even dislike you not because of who you are, but because you force them to face something they would rather deny. Even peers, or those slightly younger, can feel uneasy. If you are aging with dignity and peace while they struggle with regret, denial, or fear of decline, your wisdom can magnify their discomfort. Imagine sharing advice about letting go of material worries, finding joy in simplicity, or accepting life's limits. While you speak from hard-earned understanding, they may interpret your words as a reminder that they have not yet reached that level of acceptance. Jung would say that your wisdom awakens their shadow fear, the unacknowledged terror of growing old, losing strength, or facing death. Another layer of this discomfort lies in authority. Wisdom often carries quiet authority, even without intention. When you speak calmly from experience, others may feel as though you are above them. This can stir resistance, especially in people who prize independence or youth. Instead of listening openly, they may react with defensiveness. What do you know? Or things are different now. Their resistance is less about doubting your wisdom and more about shielding themselves from their own insecurities about aging and vulnerability. In families, this plays out in subtle ways. Adult children may resist their parents' or grandparents' insights because it reminds them of generational differences and of the eventual loss of their elders. Your wisdom, rather than being a comfort, becomes an uncomfortable mirror reflecting their own fears of time slipping away. The lesson here is profound. Jung teaches us that reactions to wisdom say more about the listener than the speaker. If someone rejects or resents your insights, it may not be because your words lack value, but because they are not ready to confront the truths those words awaken. For older adults, the key is to continue sharing wisdom without attachment to how it is received. Understand that some will welcome it as guidance, while others will resist because it threatens their illusions about youth and time. Neither reaction diminishes the worth of your perspective. Ultimately, Jung reminds us that older wisdom is a gift. If it unsettles others, it is only because it brings them face to face with fears they have not yet resolved. Your role is not to erase those fears for them, but to embody wisdom with authenticity and compassion, trusting that when they are read. One of Carl Jung's most powerful insights into human relationships is the idea that our reactions to others are often projections of what lies within us. When you show consistent kindness, it may not always be met with gratitude or affection. Instead, it can stir up jealousy in others, even if you have done nothing wrong. This hidden jealousy comes from an inner comparison. When people encounter your kindness, they unconsciously measure themselves against you. If they feel they cannot match your patience, warmth, or generosity, resentment begins to grow. For older people, this experience can become more visible with time. In later life, your ability to forgive easily, to stay calm during challenges, or to extend kindness without expecting anything in return, may highlight qualities others wish they had. A younger person, for example, may look at your gentle wisdom and feel jealous that you have acquired a strength they don't yet possess. Another person your own age might resent your positive outlook because it makes them confront their own bitterness or regrets. In this way, your kindness acts like a mirror, reflecting what they lack and, rather than admiring you, they turn against you. Jealousy also thrives in situations where kindness feels like a spotlight. Imagine doing something, help, giving advice, or showing understanding. Instead of appreciating it, someone may feel that your kindness reveals their weaknesses. Jung would say, this reaction is not truly about you, but about the other person's shadow, the hidden parts of themselves they avoid facing. Your act of kindness unintentionally awakens this shadow, making them defensive. In relationships, jealousy linked to kindness can be especially painful. A spouse, friend, or even a child may feel overshadowed if your kindness attracts respect from others. They may think, why don't people admire me in the same way? This insecurity leads to a subtle form of hostility, expressed through distance, criticism, or even passive-aggressive behavior. For older adults, this can feel confusing. You offer love and warmth, yet receive coldness in return. Jung's insight here is deeply liberating. Jealousy is not a response to your true self but to what you represent in another person's psyche. Your kindness is not the problem. It is their unhealed wounds, insecurities, and unacknowledged longings that create conflict. Understanding this helps you avoid taking rejection personally. The practical lesson for older people is simple but powerful. Continue being kind, but don't expect everyone to welcome it. Recognize that jealousy is often invisible, and it may grow stronger in those who are already insecure or competitive. Instead of withdrawing your kindness, anchor yourself in self-awareness. When someone resents your goodness, remind yourself, this is their struggle, not mine. In the end, Jung teaches that jealousy triggered by kindness reveals more about the other person than about you. Your role is to remain authentic, kind without guilt, compassionate without shame, and aware that sometimes your light will disturb the shadows others refuse to face. Carl Jung often emphasized that what we admire or dislike in others is frequently a reflection of something hidden within ourselves. When you are kind, compassionate, or consistently good to others, you may unintentionally act as a mirror. This mirror does not always bring comfort. It can reflect back people's insecurities, fears, and shortcomings. Instead of appreciating your kindness, they may feel exposed, vulnerable, or inferior, which can quickly turn into dislike. For many people, goodness highlights their own inner struggles. Imagine someone who secretly feels selfish, impatient, or unkind. When they encounter your patience and generosity, it quietly reminds them of these traits they would rather not see. Instead of thanking you for showing a better way, they may resent you because your actions make them feel inadequate. Jung described this as a projection of the shadow. People project their unwanted qualities onto others, blaming them for emotions they don't want to face. For older adults, this dynamic often becomes sharper. Your life experiences may have given you a sense of calmness, understanding, and emotional stability. Younger people or even peers who have not yet found this balance might feel insecure in your presence. For example, if you forgive easily while they hold grudges, your goodness makes them question their own bitterness. If you live with gratitude despite aging challenges, it may reflect their fear of decline or dissatisfaction with life. Instead of admiring your attitude, they may unconsciously reject you because it unsettles their sense of self. Another layer of this insecurity arises in relationships. A friend might interpret your kindness as proof that they are not as giving A family member may see your generosity as a standard they cannot live up to. Even though you are not competing, they may feel as though your goodness sets an invisible bar they fail to reach. This internal comparison can create resentment, leading them to dislike you not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence forces them to confront parts of themselves they would rather ignore. Jung's insight helps us understand that the hostility directed toward kind people is rarely personal. It is a psychological defense mechanism. When someone feels insecure, they protect themselves by disliking the person who triggers those feelings. Your kindness is not really the issue. It is the way it reveals their inner emptiness or unresolved wounds. For older people, the practical wisdom here is to not let others' insecurities dim your kindness. If your goodness causes discomfort in someone else, recognize it as their internal struggle. Don't take it as a sign to stop being who you are. Instead, create boundaries when needed and maintain compassion not just for others, but for yourself too. Ultimately, Jung's teaching shows that your kindness is a mirror. Some will look into it and feel inspired, while others will see their insecurities reflected and turn away in resentment. Either way, it is not your responsibility to carry their emotional burden. Your task is simply to remain authentic and true to the goodness within you. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is one of his most influential ideas. The shadow represents the hidden, denied, or suppressed parts of our personality, the traits we don't want to admit we have, such as anger, envy, selfishness, or fear. According to Jung, when people are confronted with kindness or compassion, especially from someone who seems genuine and balanced, their shadow often rises to the surface. Instead of embracing your kindness, they resist it, because it threatens to expose the parts of themselves they would rather keep hidden. Kindness, in its purest form, is like light, and light naturally reveals what is hidden in the dark. For people carrying unhealed emotional wounds, your compassion can feel uncomfortable. It silently highlights the gap between who they are and who they want to be. For example, when you forgive someone easily, it may irritate them because it reminds them of how hard it is for them to let go of grudges. When you show patience, it can awaken their suppressed impatience or intolerance. Instead of softening their hearts, your compassion makes them defensive, even hostile. For older people, this dynamic can become especially evident. With age often comes greater empathy and understanding, born out of life's trials and lessons. You may approach others with gentleness, knowing the struggles of life firsthand. Yet, people who have not confronted their own shadows may react negatively. A younger person might see your patience as a reminder of their immaturity. A peer might resent your peaceful acceptance of aging if they are still fighting their own fear of decline. In such cases, your compassion threatens their ego's defenses, so they push back against you. Jung explained that most people avoid looking at their shadow because it feels painful to acknowledge traits they dislike within themselves. But your compassion can act as a subtle invitation to heal one they may not be ready for. Instead of saying, "Thank you for showing me another way," they may react with suspicion, sarcasm, or even dislike. To them, your kindness feels like pressure, forcing them to face inner wounds they'd prefer to ignore. This resistance can also appear in close relationships. Perhaps you show love unconditionally, but your spouse, child, or friend struggles with guilt, shame, or unresolved anger. Your compassion may seem overwhelming, as if it shines a light on their inability to reciprocate. They may feel exposed or unworthy, and instead of growing from your example, they resist it. Jung would say they are not rejecting you but protecting themselves from the discomfort of their shadow being revealed. The lesson for older adults is profound. Compassion is powerful, but not everyone is ready to receive it. Some will embrace your kindness with gratitude, while others will resist because it unsettles their unhealed parts. It is not your duty to force healing upon them, nor should their rejection make you bitter. By understanding Jung's insight, you can maintain compassion without expectation. You realize that when others resist your kindness, it reflects their relationship with their own shadow, not with you. Your role is simply to remain true to your authentic self, compassionate, kind, and wise while allowing others to face their shadows in their own time. Carl Jung often observed that human relationships are deeply shaped by perception rather than reality. This means that even the most sincere act of kindness can be misunderstood. One of the most common misinterpretations is that kindness signals superiority, that you are somehow placing yourself above the other person. Instead of seeing your goodness as